intriguing to see why or why not something would work, or whether they could prove or disprove a myth. I remember one episode I watched, they did Chinese water torture. They built a device and they put one of their team members on it, and they were trying to test whether or not it would make her panicky or feel helpless. And as she continued on, she did become panicky and helpless, and as her heart rate sped up, I felt like mine was too. And she soon became hysterical, and they released her. And it was relieving to see her released because it was sort of unnerving to see someone go through that type of torture. She couldn't cooperate when they were asking her questions, and she was even in a controlled environment where she knew that she could be let out if she asked. And in real life, the victims can't do that. Torture is wrong, it's immoral, and it doesn't work. The victims become too upset to cooperate, and this method is dead and should not be used in any circumstance. So across the United States, it's a common belief that torture is an effective way to obtain information from a suspected terrorist. A poll taken by CBS said that 59% of Americans say that torture a suspected terrorist is justified. So some of the methods that they said was justified were sexual threats, forced sleeplessness, waterboarding, and ice bath. Torture became a frequent use of method after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. They believed that the torture would help prevent future terrorist attacks. In reality, all information gained from this torture was either false or they'd already had it beforehand. The CIA didn't need to do this. You could say that Americans believe in punishment and that they like it, I guess. The U.S. has the world's highest incarceration rate at 716 inmates per 100,000 people. You would think that a communist country such as China would have a much higher rate, but theirs is considerably lower at 121 inmates per 100,000 people. Not only this, but we also believe in the most cruel punishment, like in the nation. We accept those punishments despite what the 8th Amendment says, which is excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted. So they have other ways of gaining information instead of using torture. And my favorite way that they could have used instead is getting personal with the suspect. The Atlantic says that disclosure was 14 times more likely to occur early in an interrogation when a rapport-building approach was used. Confessions were 4 times more likely when interrogators struck a neutral and respectful stance. Rates of a detainee disclosure were also higher when they were interrogated in comfortable settings. So basically what you would be doing is trying to be friendly with the suspect, and you would try to find something that you have in common with them and use that to get the information out of them instead of torture. As an American, it's sort of out of the ordinary for me to believe that torture is wrong. Violence is an outlet of rage, and we're all angry. We can't leave our home or watch the news without seeing violence. The torture gives us false information, and the victim will fabricate anything to try to get out of the pain that they're currently feeling. It's immoral beyond measure, and it goes against the 8th Amendment. So, cruel or unusual punishment, let's see what you think. Imagine that you're in the torture suspect's shoes. Water is being poured over your head, and you feel like you're drowning. Or you're hanging from ropes, being forced to stay awake for hours upon end. Or you're trapped in a small, dark box with body cramps and no way to get out. Or you're bent over backwards while pureed food is forcibly inserted into your anal cavity. The CIA should not use torture to try to obtain information from suspected terrorists, and we should not support them when they do.
What other ways besides like the getting personal is there to get information out?
I actually didn't read about a lot of ways that they could do that. That was one of the best talking to them, like interviewing them, I guess. But I guess that would almost be the same as getting personal with them.
Are there any other countries that don't use any form of torture?
I'm not sure. I'm sure a lot of countries use torture.
So if everyone else is doing it, or other countries are potentially doing it, so you're not sure, why should we be a country that doesn't use it if people who work for our government are going to get tortured in other countries? Why shouldn't we be using it then?
Well, first of all, it's immoral, and when we torture people from their countries, they feel like they want to get back at us. So when they capture someone from our country, they're going to do something worse than what we did to their captives.
Why do you think that we what started with the torture? Why do we do it?
I don't know. I guess probably it was probably someone, they were trying to do something in a certain amount of time, and they felt like it was the only way they could use to get the information out of them. And so they were under the stress, and they were just like, oh, I'm going to torture them now. Yeah.
Well, if it's ineffective, why does it continue to use?
Honestly, that's a good question. I have